tutti si petre, caira batu suere matre spura, tacerente, kutu. Pirika tutte le spagliano gente, su cui amatoscia, tapacutro spiratura, ancora. Kutira masulla ieri sera.
Everyone, and welcome to the table with myself, Vox Angeles, and Andona Sananda Kamara, and we would love to welcome Zeenat Lakdawala to our light language conversation. And we are so happy that you have joined us today.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with both of you and with the community. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, welcome, Zeenat. It's so exciting to get a chance to know you, to get an opportunity, to have an opportunity to learn more about you and your experience with light language. So welcome to the roundtable.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, let's get started. I guess the first question would be for you to let us know a little bit about your journey. How is it that you came to begin speaking light language?
So I was in corporate for 15 years into marketing. I was the head of marketing in corporate. And during the time in 2008 and 9 is when I actually started doing something for myself, because I had gone through a phase in my life and I needed to come out of it. And that's when I started doing aggressive healing work with myself. And during that journey, I came across various modalities, various aspects of modalities. And I was guided to learn sacred geometry. And then I was guided to learn how to do coloring. And in one of my jobs where I was working, I was asked to whether continue with the job or leave the job. And so I decided to leave the job. And during that 1 year of sabbatical, I was going deeper and deeper in myself. And I came across this book, or many times when I would go for a healing session or I would go for a seminars where there are healers out there, they would tell me that I was a channeler and I needed to channel and I needed to get myself into doing something that is going to be helping the earth. So these messages started coming to me. And one day I was asked by a friend that, why don't you start channeling? And I didn't know what was channeling and what that encompassed. So I called up, I was guided to speak to a lady in India. And so I picked up the phone and I asked her that I'm being told to channel and could you teach me how to channel? So she was pretty surprised and she said, do you know me? And I said, no, I don't know. I just came to know about you. So she told me, why don't you read my book? So I picked up her first book, and through the book, I came in touch with my guide through the book, Meher Baba. And while reading the book, I felt like I must go to his shrine. And that's in India, Maharashtra, where I stay, in the state of in my country. So I decided to go for a journey over there. And during the interaction, or rather when I used to go into the shrine and I kept my forehead on the pedestal just to take the blessing, I got this question, or you can say a ringing in my head that says, you have to write, you have to write, you have to write. And I was completely taken aback with this constant sound in my head going on. And if I was trying to move my head, I could not move because it says you have to write. So I said, okay, I will write. And at the minute I said that, I could feel the pressure had released from my head. So I came out, and that's when I felt like something had really shifted, and I could not pinpoint what was the shift. So I sat outside for a couple of hours, I believe. And the only thing I asked to the master, to the guide, was that I will write, because I've been constantly being told to write. I will write, but I want to go back to the corporate and complete my, like journey with the corporate, because I left. It was not a very pleasant way of leaving. So I said, in 6 months, I will let go of everything that I'm doing, and I will concentrate on just doing this. And so the minute I came back to my home, there was a call that was awaiting me, and the company that had interviewed me a few months back decided to give me the job. And I was like, all right, that's amazing. And so I joined the company, and the first destination I had to go was to that lady's house, to that lady's city. And it was like, wow, I had just spoken to her. I read her book. I went here. And now my first day, I have to be in the city. So I connected with her, and I said, I'm coming to your city for an induction. Would it be okay for me to come across and meet you? And she happily invited me home. And that's where she mentioned to me the different type of channeling, and she gave me a book to write. And she says, just start writing. And so I came back home, and I started writing English. So I would write I would start writing. And I couldn't figure out what I must, but I still continued because I had committed myself. Then one day I just could not write with my right hand. So I'm an ambidextrous. So I picked up my left hand and I started writing in English. And then after a few days, that also stopped, because then I was writing gibberish, because I could not any longer write in English. And I could see that there were words coming through, or I was getting symbols. And so I started writing that. And I continued doing that for almost 3 to 4 months. And one day I showed my book to a friend of mine who reads Language of Light. And she said, you're writing conversation. You're literally having a full-blown conversation in here. And I was like very much amazed with myself of doing that. And on the 6th month, my company was taken over by another big company, and they could not keep me anymore because I was a very high-paying employee. So they informed me rather that we will have to let go of you. And I just smiled at them, and I was just reminded that I had committed 6 months. And I said, sure, why not? So they were so apologetic of letting me go, so that they made it so easy for me that they said, you don't come to office, you give your notice period from home. So I was home for 3 months. I had not to do any work, and I just had the laptop. They had just said, take the laptop, don't come to office, don't answer any emails, because we are very apologetic for asking you to leave. And so I had a full-on paid resignation. And that's when I started going more deeper into the Language of Light. And I was then given an indication that my work is to bring in the world's first light language sacred geometry grids, which has crystals, which have language of light, which has got color. And so this was like a combination of all of this coming together. And it is one of its kind. And from there, in a matter of few months, I was then instructed that I need to speak the language. So I was writing the language. I did in a 6 months time, I did approximately 45 grids for people of different kinds, of looking at different categories. And from there, I was asked to speak the language of light. And when I was doing the language of light, I realized that I was speaking this language when I was a child. So I had a flashback of the time when I was speaking this language and how I used to speak this language, and it felt very, very familiar to me. So that's how my journey, you can say, began. And now I do light language transmissions, I do the grids, I do blueprints, and everything that comes up in my space for giving in the energy to heal, to expand, to explore what is required is what I do. So that's been my short journey. Cannot, you're on mute, my dear.
I'm sorry. I am curious in your work who it is or what it is that you feel that you are in communication with as you're doing this work, as you're receiving all of this information and the symbols and so forth to be able to accomplish what it is that you're doing.
So I used to think I'm getting the language from the star gateways of Vega and Lyra Vega, or I'm getting it from Syrian. But I used to feel that the texture is different because I have heard people speaking the language from Syrian and from Lyra. So then I went into the exploration to understand from where do I get the language of light. And it was then told to me that I come from a different, I don't come from this cosmos in which we are, which is the universes and the galaxies and this cosmos. I don't belong to this cosmos. So my language comes from a very different cosmos itself, where I am channeling the energy through them into the Mother Gaia. So, and through me is the energy that flows through. So I am yet to get the name of this cosmos from where I belong to. And the exploration is like every day I do tune into the energy and I bring in the language, but I'm not getting the name as yet. But I've got confirmation with quite a few people in the last couple of months, confirming that I don't bring the language from this galaxy and definitely not from this cosmos.
Wow, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Your story resonates with me in so many ways, because I was one of those who was in the corporate world and got that inkling that it's time to step aside. It no longer fits. It's no longer you. It's time for you to move in a different direction. And I think many of us get those inklings in many different ways. It's just fascinating hearing that, because I don't hear very many people who come into it in that way from the corporate world. Like there's that notice that, like, you're literally giving notice that it's time to step aside from that space. Many people come through it through struggle and pain, or like a medical experience or something like that kind of forces them into a place of really taking stock and looking at the self. But I think it's just so fascinating that you came into it in that way, and you surrendered to it, and you surrendered to that impulse, that awareness that it was time to make that shift in such a way. Having said all that, I'm curious to know if your family was kind of in line with your shift, because stepping aside from the corporate world, that's a major decision that has so many impacts across the fabric of a family or a family dynamic and a couple relationship. So how was that transition of moving from the corporate world into the embodiment of your light language? How did that impact the fabric of your family and your children? If you have children, how did that impact that dynamic, that aspect of you?
So when I was when I decided that I'm going to take that 1 year of sabbatical, that was the time I worked on identity, because it is the identity that needed to be broken down, to be shattered, because I was known as the head of marketing. I had 300 people working with me. So that identity, and I had a big 6-figure package coming to my account every single month. And that is that needed to be shuttered down, broken into pieces. That 1 year actually gave me that opportunity, because I was no longer being attached to it. I was no longer and I was not expecting it to be. And God grace, my family is we are a very open family in that manner. We are not, my dad was religious, but my mom has been so fluid. Like I get that fluidity of being in the flow is through her, and she's a brilliant artist herself. So I see that energy of expansionness and the support came from my mom to me. And we as children were never told what we should do and we must not do. We were let to be ourselves. However, while growing up, my father was very, very strict and he wanted things to be in a particular manner. And I think that rebel part, the stubborn part, came to me through him. So I wanted to just go for this. Like, I wanted to know this. I wanted to do this. So that aspect came from my father. And when he crossed over, I think it was just, I had no obligation that I have to be someone. And I was totally left onto my own. Also, I saw that the universe supported me with a lot of things. Like I was given workshops that were for free. I was taken to places where I wouldn't have gone otherwise. So the doors, and I think doors, windows, roof, everything started just opening up to support me through this entire shift and journey. And that is why I have a huge trust that what is meant to be will happen with utmost ease. And so my work always brings in that energy, that I'm always in the flow. I find it very difficult in putting myself into some kind of a calendar or saying morning I'll do this, evening I'll do that. I just find myself in the flow, and that's what helped me. And my family has supported me through this. I got married 5 years ago, and my husband has a wavelength. He's an artist himself, so we have a similar wavelength, and we do support and complement each other in the journey that we have taken on. He has a different path, I have a different path, but we have this kind of a resonance and understanding, and it's a beautiful thing. So God bless for that. Yeah.
I am curious a bit if you can explain. You were talking about you're doing gridding work, and I'm curious. Just simply kind of what does the gridding work entail, and how is it interacting with either humanity or the planet, or what exactly are you doing, and then what is it doing? I think that would be the question. What do you feel that it is doing for humanity and the planet? What it is that you're creating?
So when I initially started doing the grids, I was putting my cognitive mind. I would sit and I would say, oh, I would do this kind of a geometry and I will do that kind of the geometry. And then I would see that it is not shaping up. Either something will happen or I will not get back to doing it. So when people then started approaching me with whether they had financial concerns, whether they had health concerns, or they are just trying to uplift themselves into spirituality. So I would look at various categories: abundance, manifestation, health, wealth, business orientation, business expansion. So what I started doing, which was very different, was that I would just sit and I would get a vision of it. Like there will be an image that would show in front of me. And now I have to reproduce this image. So I would do the geometry, which is not completely of this earth. So whether they may not be platonic solids, they would be something else. And these geometries would start showing up on the page. Then I was asked to put color onto them. And I would see that if I am making a grid, I would sometimes take 5 months, because making a grid would entail that even if I made one circle, I would sleep for like days together, because itself would have so much of energy that I would get exhausted. And then after the geometry is done, the colors is put, then the language of light started coming through. And then I would write the language of light. And while I'm writing the language of light, I would see that I'm speaking the language, because sometimes I'm told to speak the language and write the language. So I do that. And then once those are done, and then I would ask if it is completed, and then they would tell me what crystal needs to be put onto them. And that's how a grid would be created. And what my knowledge has been is that when I am creating this, or when I'm bringing in the language, it is not only coming onto the paper. Through the paper, the geometry, the language is also moving into the earth grid and making the shift. So it's not only helping people at their achievements that they want, or whatever they are looking for at their material life, but it is also helping the earth to make that shift in the manner that they require. So that's what the thing I started seeing, and I still see it. And sometimes when I'm working, some of the grids are only just to be made. I don't get them out, or I don't even display them. They're just to be done. And that is very, very powerful, those kind of grids.
That's fascinating. I have so many questions running through my head at the moment. But in the grand scheme of things, it really feels like you're creating a portal space for that energy to come through, for that energy to channel through. Your description of what it is that you create sounds very similar to the work of Ibrahim Karim, who does biogeometry. He creates harmony within the space, using geometries, using shapes. And then the other aspect, the other dimension of that is your ability to bring through or channel that light language, to anchor it in through the use of the crystals that you further use to kind of hold that portal space, as a sacred space. In that, do you have a description or a definition that you use to define how your light language works with the field? What would be your explanation if somebody asked you what is light language? How would you explain that to them and the way that it works with the unified field as a whole?
So what I have seen is that when the language of light starts coming in, nowadays I can see them into just like waves. They are not even simple line. They are just waves and waves of colors. And when they start touching your energy field, they move into your skin, and through the skin, it goes into your blood. And through the blood, I see them going into the DNA. And in the DNA, we are just using just 2 strands of the DNA, and on that also just 10%. So this energy starts opening up the DNA. And while it is doing that, because the language, whether you see it or hear the language, it doesn't make any sense to the cognitive mind. So your left brain is completely shut. And when it surpasses all the filters, it just goes right into the work and starts working on the chromosome level, starts working on the DNA level. And imagine with that 10% that I'm currently using, I'm creating this much. With just additional push, I can make so much of a difference. And when my clients, they use the language of light, or they're listening to the MP3s, whether it is of trust, whether it is of cleansing or clearing of mind, they have gone back to telling me that they can feel the difference. They are more in their own, you can say, presence, in their own being. And that's a huge validation for what the energy does for them, because the fear energy is released, insecurities are released, instability. So everything that is on the 3D level, which is our root chakra, that does not get expand because of the fear, the innate fear, that starts losing its grip. And I see, because it's the language, it doesn't make sense to anybody. It just goes, the mind just thinks, what is that? And it just cannot comprehend. And that's where the work happens. Faster work happens, I feel.
I'm curious if you receive these grids and utilize them to elevate your own personal life for healing or transformation of any sort. Do you do this work for yourself as well?
Yes. In fact, grids that are made in my house, which is then brought into the space or announced about it, I use them all. I use the coasters which I make to keep my water. I use the MP3s throughout the day, whether it's to protect my energy field, whether it is to clear the space, to clear my mind, whether it is just to clear my aura. I use everything that comes, and also when I do group calls, I listen to my own group calls because I don't know what I have just downloaded. So I have to go back to listen to what I have just downloaded. And when my husband listens to it, because he's there on the calls, and he says, "Oh, I felt this shift." I'm like, okay, I need to also experience that, because I was just bringing the language. I was just doing the work as I was told. And so everything that I do, every word that I speak is first experienced, and then I bring it to the world. Because I feel that this year when I went through a surgery, the light language coaster was first brought in, which I started using even before I went in for my surgery. So it helped me through the process. It helped me to really, it was my support system through the phase. So yes, I use everything that I bring down.
I know that a
Oh,
lot of people we've spoken to, it's kind of like when I first started out with everything that I'm doing, the thought just wasn't there about using it on myself. And I know now that sounds like really silly. And I remember having a conversation with a very astute and powerful woman, and I was just questioning, what am I doing? Where is this? But I was bringing it through, but I'm kind of like, what is it? Where's it coming? What am I doing? What do I call it? And she just said, Phyllis, it is just simply your own personal medicine and magic, right? And no one else can do what it is that you do in the way that you do it. And when I was thinking about that, I was thinking how powerful we are, because none of this would really come through, in a sense, if you think about it, none of this would really come through if it was not beneficial for us as well. Because I believe that we are in service to self before we are in service to others, right?
Absolutely.
And so when we look back at it, I'm like, I should be doing that for myself. I should be creating this for myself, because that is coming through me, and it's part of my own evolutionary process. So throughout all of this, we've asked this question that everyone's like, well, yeah, I have started to listen to my own transmissions, or I'm in the shower and I'm speaking light language, or what have you. And that happens in my life as well. And sometimes I wonder why I'll just be driving and I'll have this whole outburst of light language, and I have a fleeting thought of like, I don't have a clue what that was about. But it was just for some reason, right? And I've stopped questioning that. But it just really speaks to how powerful each and every one of us is when we truly hone in and focus on our gifts. That it is medicine for ourselves as well, not just for everyone else.
Yes.
And it's here to shift our own lives as well.
Absolutely. When I am doing the language, I see that I am first upgraded myself to bring in that, because if I have not moved, I find I will take more time. And in the last, now is my 9th or 10th year of bringing the language of light, I see that the energy is becoming more faster. It's becoming more, because I'm in that process of, yes, this is what I do. This is what it is. And it is. So it is. So it just makes it very easy and really helps.
I think it speaks to the power of getting centered in the heart and allowing the heart to lead, and giving the mind permission to take a sidestep to the leading and the guidance of the heart, allowing the true essence, that divine essence, the life force essence, to flow through and have such an impact. And I think one of the great things about this summit is that people have an opportunity to see and hear the effects, the impacts that people are having in their lives by just getting heart-centered and getting out of the mind, letting the mind get out of the way, right? Giving it permission to take a sidestep, a back seat to the leading of the heart. I think it speaks to that, because at its basis level, I believe that's what it is, getting heart-centered, allowing that pure divine essence to just flow where it needs to flow, and reminding all that's caught in the illusion of its truth, right? All that's caught, yeah.
So true.
That is beautiful. I had a question that just popped into my head. That was just about your gridding work. Are you allowing this energy to flow through you? Is it hand drawn work, or are you using like some form of software to create your sacred geometry, or are you doing it by hand?
This is by hand, and I use the compass scale, and and then now over last 1.5 years, I have started using different techniques. I'm using now multimedia, which is different colors and different type of colors. Not going on to I did try using the Procreate, but it just felt not right now. So I continue doing handwork, And right now I'm making blueprints for people with using their hand and the tracing of their hands and bringing in the energy, you can say activating the blueprints and their templates. So that's very interesting. So yeah, and it's so much of colors is coming through and different kind of metallics, and I'm experimenting a lot with the colors. So it's really very interesting. And earlier, when I initially started, and as it is, mind was taking over. Mind wanted to have the color coordinated, contrast had to be, and I would see those grids would just have to be torn off because I have done something error. And the day I sat down and I said, okay, let me just not give any instructions. So whichever color will come is the color which will go onto the grid. And when I started doing that, and also because your mind is so trained for like corporate world, you are so much in that cut, 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 has to be in this manner. So when it just started moving off, it started wearing off that need to have a contrast of this kind, because then I started seeing that if I'm just lifting a color, it is the best contrast that the paper could have held. And I started just going with the flow. And I think now I don't even question. I don't question at all. If I'm just supposed to put a dot and everything is going to be a dot for that day, it is just the dot for that day. I step back. I will not force myself. I will not say, oh, I have been sitting on this grid for like 1 month. Now I have to go and give it back. It is divine plan. It is the person's energy, because I'm not only working with my energy, with my higher self. My higher self is in connection with the source, and the source is connected with the higher self of the person I'm working with. So when it is ready, I get the instruction to start flowing. And when it is not ready, then I'm asked to keep it aside. So I have seen certain grids sometimes take a long time, and that's not intentional, but it just takes long time. And sometimes they're just waiting for a particular, a particular upgrade that I need to go through. And when that happens, next day the grid is ready. It's as super fast as it can. So it's very interesting to see that.
Yeah, I was curious about your thoughts on that, because I know all three of us actually do some form of symbolic work and sacred geometry and type of thing. And I find that, there's a lot of people out there that do what they're calling like light language work, but they're doing it, they're using Procreate or things like that. But I'm finding in my own exploration with that it doesn't, for me, the energy's flowing through me to bring and manifest something into the world, and it has to come through my hand. Like I can't come through an online platform or something. It doesn't work. I've tried it, and it just seems like the energetics of it is dead. And it's not, I can't think of the word. It's not translating. It's just not translating in the way that it did. So I was curious what you're doing, because I'm finding that energy that's kind of flowing through my arms, and then I'm drawing as I'm seeing the imagery in my head. I'm drawing what is in my head, but I feel like that energy is flowing through to the paper.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. And my question, I asked my guides this question, right? I asked them why. And they said it's intended to flow into physical manifestation. It needs to be in physical manifestation, not within the ether space or the electronic space or the interwebs or whatever you want to call that. It needs to come forth into physical manifestation. It needs to settle within that space so that it can impact physical reality and send that feedback back to the source. That's this part of this infinite feedback loop that we're all a part of the torus field. It has to be physically manifested in that way. So I've had the same experience. I can't work electronically. Everything that I bring through has to come into physical being. I need to feel it, touch it. I need to be able to interact with it with my hands, because once it's on paper, then I can interact with it, and you can feel that consciousness lift itself up energetically off the page itself. So you need to be able to feel in that way. Electronically doesn't get me to that point at all.
I love that the consciousness lifts up off the page.
It does.
Beautiful, because
it does. You can feel it like a. It does. You can feel it like a bubble.
Does.
Yeah.
One of the grid I made, which was the energy of money, Lakshmi grid. It has the goddess power in it. And when you put it in a particular angle, you can actually see that it is 3D. It just rises and you feel, oh my God. Like right now I stay and I'm getting a kind of a push in my solar plexus, and you can actually see. So if I align myself to it, I can actually see most of my geometry just lifts up. It's like, I can't explain that to people that it's not on the 2D plane, but it is, look at it at an angle, and I just leave it as like, just enjoy it.
You know, recently I came across a video, and every time I've ever seen a crop circle, I've felt like it was some light language or some coding in to some degree, right? That you can interact with. And how can I interact? Let me go and see what this thing has to say to me, and so I can work with it in a way that, you know, works for me. But I saw a video where somebody brought those that two-dimensional surface, right? They brought that into 3D expression. And so they animated it so that people could have a visual of how these things really works, or how you can really work with those or see them as working with three-dimensional space. And I thought it was fascinating, because how often does someone who isn't visual get a chance to see something in such a visual way so that they can begin to perceive it in such a different way? I think it speaks to all of this symbology that we all use, and the power that it has to work with us and the field itself. So, yeah.
Well, I think this would be a wonderful time for you to give us an experiential demonstration of your work in some way, shape, or form that you would like to share with us. And if there's anything that our audience needs to do to prepare to receive. I'm not exactly what you're going to be sharing with us, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to go ahead and pin you. There we go.
Thank you.
Yes. And go ahead.
So as you were speaking, what came to me is to work on the expression, the throat. So we bring in the energy of and all that you need to do is breathe in and breathe out. And as you're breathing in and breathing out, and as the energy flows through your being, and as this energy flows in, flows in, and through the feet into the earth, and as the energy connects you to the earth, to the heart center of the earth, and as you connect with Mother Gaia, and as you bring the source consciousness, and as your heart connects to the heart of Mother Gaia, and the movement of the energy flows from the base of your feet to the top of your head. And from the top of your head into the earth. Namasha Samakaya Talaha Namakatapudu Yodunumokotopurukoto Yodunumokotopurukoto Yodunumokotopurukoto. Gahamsana Hanahana Hanamakoturukoto Gamsahana Katamanakati Yodunumokoturukoto Ani Nana 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 Tanakatanaka Ani Nana 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 Tanakatanakatanaka Tihishasata Peketo Lurukotanama Tamahanama Katalarata. And as the energy works on a heart and your higher heart, oh And the energy moves from your higher heart into your throat. Naki yudunumukutu yudunumukutu. And so sukutu yudunumukutu sakayotu surkutunukutu. Namakataparakati yudunumukutu. And so shall you speak the truth. Tana yanakatamatamakutu. Alari yanahanamakatalarata. And so you shall express your truth. Alami anamanahan makataplatake yudunumukutu pakiyadana makatalara katamukutu. Alani ananahan makatapalaraka. Namakatapayadana hanamakatapalara. And so shall you know the truth. Hanahanama hasamakatapalara katumukutu. Namakatapayadana hanamasamakutulurukutu. Attarakatarakatarakatanakatarakatarakapu. Yadana hanamakatapayadana makataparakatana. Namakatapalara Tayatanahisa Yadanahana Makaturukutu Yatanakuturukutu Yudanakuturukutuya Ahidahanaha no Shasuru Yadanakuturukutu Yatanakatata Namakatapa Yadana Makatapaka Yadana Makatapaka Yadana Makatapaka Yadana Makaturukutu Nukutarata Namakatapa Yadana Mahanamukutu Pushama Yadanahana Makaturukutu Nukutarata Inara Hadana Mahana Makaturukutu Inaradana Katanata. So all the clearing that is required. Tama Yadana Makatalara Katurukutu all imprints. Tamakatapalara all implants. Tamaki Yadanamukutu wherever your right to speak was taken away, releasing it now. Releasing all imbalances. Nisandi Udunukuturutu Itatashasanakati Udunukutanata Nanahanamakatanamukuturu Ishanakatara Idinakatarata Nasanakanatanakuturukuturukuturukuturukuturukuturukuturukutu Asanakayadanahanamakataraya Namakataparakatayadanamakataparakatayadanamakataparakata. And the energy from the void fills in your chest. Namanamanamehanukuturukutu and expands it. Tanakataraya Donukuturukuturukutu Anahanami Itarakatayana. And your higher heart sings. Tanahidunukuturukuturukutu Yadanakatamakataparakatana. Namasamaya Yadana Hanamakata Yadunukutu Yashasanakata Yadanakata Ashasanakata Yadana Tarakaturukuturukuturukuturukutanata Namahanamakata Yudunumukuturukutu Itaratanakata Itaratanakaturukutunukutanata Gamahasamakata Yadunumukuturukutu Yadunumukuturukutu Yadanakatarkatu Yadanamakataparakatapanakata Yadanamakatarakatanate Nihiri. And as the energy flows from your throat into the third eye, from the third eye into the crown. Tamakataparakata, Natareketu Yudunumukuturukuturukutanah Sanakataparakatanakanamakatarakatanakatanata, Sanakatarakata, and from the throat into your heart, into your Sarkatapiyadanaka, into your solar plexus, into your sacral, into your root. Tanahanana Manakatarukuturukutu, Tahasanakatarakati Yudunukuturukuturukutu, balancing. Tariyadanamakaparakati Yadanamaturukuturukutunakatata, Natatataratarataraturukuturukutu, Issatakatayatatsakatayatarakatataturuta. Namakataparakatapiki Yudunumukuturukuturukutat. Tamata Ishasamakatapi Yadanamakaturukuturukuturukuturukutanata. Nahana katanata. Tanisana. Nihipikitu urukutunukutarata. Naham dahana Hanamakataparakatunukuturukutu. Naham dahana Katamarakataparakatakati Yadunukuturukutunukutunukutarata. Danaha Mahanamutamatu Yoshasu Yadunumukuturukuturukutanata. Nimiyaraha Nananamakaturukutanata. Sararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararararar Samu tamu shamu samu shamu samu shamu samu. Gamu shama samadino tomo kotoro kutanata. Nami tono kotoloro kotalara. Nimete peke tono kotoloro. Ira dana namami nini miki doloro kotanata. Sa shasa. Vashasa shasa. Gamasha sana kotono kotanata. Gentle, gentle breath in. Ooh. Ramaya katana. No. Ramaya katana. No. Namurata yata. Amasana yada mahana mukotoloro. Amuno ku tanamu. Ete laratanata. Taha shasa tono kota. And so it is. Tuhoshasa. 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 Thank you, thank you, thank you. May all creation be blessed. Thank you. Please have some water.
I was trying to formulate my question. I'm transported outside our known universe at the moment. I have to say that is the first time in listening to another person's transmission that I've truly felt what they stated. That I was transported outside of this outside of this known universe, recognizing that, but I could see it, sense it, feel it, totally see the beings. I mean, and what it was that you were doing. So there's some connection there for me as well, because I could feel and sense and understand that from somewhere else, from a higher house. It was like, but I don't know how to put in words what I'm feeling, that it is as if you are in a fully embodied, you're bringing in this full embodiment of a being that isn't from here. And it's like very distinct in what it is you're bringing through in your work for me. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, similar experience. I felt the energy in the same way, and I was just completely open. It was like just get in the heart and stay there, and just open and receive all of that. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And what I thought was interesting is how you have some people who get into the space and they have to talk themselves into a space, and then others of us just start. You're like already carrying that frequency, and you're able to just go into it like right away. So I felt like I was just taken in right away. I didn't need a lot of prep. I didn't need to be placed anywhere. I was already present, and we just, it was just open and ready to go. So yeah, it was beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you tell us, when you are in the midst of doing this work, what is it that you yourself are experiencing?
I'm very calm, and I'm very involved in it. So every aspect starts showing up, and I get so immersed with it that I need to actually, like, I'm asked to then step back. It becomes sometimes like I can just go on doing this work for days together. Like I was just saying that I'm a night person, and I can continue working nonstop, and I can work in the day also. So it's very engaging, and I also understand that sometimes I need to take backseat, because my physical body takes time for it to hold on to the energy, but otherwise I can continue just doing this work. And it always keeps me very, very calm, and I'm very, very I'm in the flow. I don't have to be pretentious of it. I don't have to be in a hurry of it. I just know that it is going to be done. So I'm just in that being. That's what happens with me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Had to take a breath there. So I think this would be a beautiful time to do our Trinity Light Language dialogue with each other. Yeah. And I'm still so much in that energy. It's just and I can't seem to bring myself down. So we'll just do this now. I guess there's no reason. So it's still doing what it's doing. It's still doing some work, I think, on me. So
Yeah.
I think this would be a beautiful time to just kind of start this dialogue and see what comes. So I will begin, and Andona will be second, and Zena, you'll be third, and we'll just keep going through the Trinity and just capturing the essence of this energy that you brought through. Si capiamo ma tutti spiegano ma tutte le bigere tundere spiegare tu suntere che ci da motore peria. Se che mamma che dire gutte sono na riria se che putti con tutti jambutre. Si chiamano ma che gutte spiegare ma da tri spiegare gutte ma ma che tutti. Perché ma tutte sa che ti tindura. Te che ma che pensare che munne ne besittere stire gutte spatta. Na tar gutte mino na ma che tudere. E c'era perché tu sei mia hotre si capendo tre spicchi natura. Harga me ne tutti in mesiti na ma cutre sa capatra mi che sutra me niena ma cutre spatiendere. Crimine ma cutre ma satier stutene. Na re ma cat buti ma tutere perché tiandore stiet. Se ka mamma ma ka tomote c'è cutre ma mamma ka tutere ma ka tiete. Hacha che si manna cutre spiron a tutre a piete e sutra ne mon.
Betul scendere metà kain sotramati tanto carro che pe sotramati a sandra kai sotramati kai waduh re sandra tu merro kai sandro ka tu ai da tu re da tu nia tramati kai sotramati kai da carro ka ba i sandra ka tu metà i re ka ma tu te di sotramati sandra ba e sandra ka tu te ba i te ka tu ba i da tu de be sandra ka tu ba ti ki sotramati e tanto carre pe asson perché io do sotramati a sandu kai sandra be ko maria sandra kai sandra ma tu ai baru kaya duara sendreve o marakain sotramati ai voru kaya na sotrame avoru kain sotramatu ai verwa duare fondu ya sotrame ai ya duare sondre kai dando carro cavo oa berro kai sondrame a sondre kai sandure va a sondre ai hirako ama a sondre a tu vai merro kai andu setre a tu vai berro kama sondre a tu kai sandur kai a sotere matua per assolte hirako shandreve tu merra kai onde asot verro kamayande asotrea verushia dan esirek an verush itan ashu
Giatahasa nakatapayato lorokota mahana kito yato lahata hikita nakata. Namakatapayato ussenakata yatalara putu yalara di lara kutunukota. Niki udolura hasha. Nimiki yatala yunukuta yututsisi yalara. Ina lara kutu yutunukuta pi yatalara pi yunukutuluru. Etala yatana sandi yurudu yalara pakutu yututi tastapipikita. Nimino yanamana mutuluti yatalati yututula ina itu kuru yadara. Ilara yadani yanata yadunukuta. Nukuti yatapayadula adadu udunu turukutunukuta. Na isan yoru kutuluria tapayadu iti asapala rakuti yudunu mukutuluku. Adi ula rapiyadulu yadala rapiyadunu matapayada patayadula rata. Nei arada yurudu sala in nananama yurudu yurudariada tayatana tarkutu yuturkutunukutu. Araha dahata I jana kurukutupa asuri. Nanina mahana mayano kutu yuturutu shasa. Namuru kuturukutu aduna hana katanata. Hakatana hana katanata.
Se perché ma cuore respirare tutto, perché tu cuore respira a tu ora, ma perché su under spaccacetta mata ora, catura, se perché mamma carriera si terendo tu suru, tu, spicciatura, ma c'è regere che su tu, hadiare capauro, moere, siendi, te catena matu, hanena ma cuore pature, se c'enda deri, anna gore, annana maino toro, culture, mesene, me ne caro pore, ma na cerere, hanena carure, merchingere, bacure, ma cerirana, hanna carundra, baccheri, masuri, maturi, cattiere, nama, amana cutre, spigiata ieri, ma quando non marsamana, ma che insieme a mana uoni, e vicini, minimo corriere, nota, amana meni nutri, medicini, ma caruno monte, vicini, menino, nutre, baria, amana meni na correre, botire, meni, ma che non ci andano, ma che messini, ma che amana meni condere, se paccia, ieri ratura, che ne masure, ma non macarena, una dura, sembra che, e non corre, ma ne cudna, che ci andano, magari a motor, andare che mi vuole, pature, che si chiaccontre,
Ora kai sandra meto kai satro kai sandur ka te tur mera tur kvejonde asandra kai tu arre fatun mero kai san arrasia to kai mero kai sandra kai tur ve oa ti arre sandra ve komari atenda satra katua vero kai inna sotra metan dir ke ve oa ri kai san horru kama isindra kai tua vera kai ando sotra me asandra kai itan e sotra ba isindara kurek ve on her sandra ve tu kai sandra ve komadia rakandu tu kabe ania tu correction drave omrakainda sotromat rakia sotreate a sandea rokave ocean dea so risa de aso merakai in the satrama ascendratio so rasin de kai arasua rasin de kai siatrome verukamashi andreatua barako sundreme atandi sutramata kainda sutramati asan di resatu carrefo u risin de kai sia resi tu carreshandrevet Vorukai and the Saturme or Varukai and the Sorrevo, Tiashi, Araganamo, Tiasan, Hira Sotrakaita, Merakoshandrevet, Vorushi, Rakademo, Rukan, Resi and the Kai, Merukai in the Siara Kadushan, Veros, Ushan.
Gulukuyata lana namusa, Gulutomokota pahata peketa. Namukuto pulurukuto ashilarapata parakata makata. Nimiketo lurukuto urukuta mahasama larakiti. Nikito lurukuto nokotarata makata palarakata nakatarata. Nimiketo yutu lurukutu lurutu surukutu rukutu 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 nukutarata. Namuduru daburukutu purukutu purukutu makata larakata nata. Rada da yada nahana makata palarakata pe yodonomukutu samakata palarakata nata. Numukutu purukutu purukutu patapata patapata peke yodonomukutu lurukutu mukutu lurukutu mukutu lurukutu nukutarata. Namata pata pata pakata pata pakata 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 para ida namakata larakata makata larakata nakata nata. Warahasana. Warahasana makata payata namakata payudunu kuturu kuturu kutunu kutanata. Narata yada natarata nata yada natanata yada nata. Ishe se yakura. Ina makoto payuturu rukutu tutu sanamutu rukutanata. Namukuru kutu purukutu tapi ishe se pekete payudunu makutu rukutanata. La nuto rukutu nukutu rukutu la nurukutu nukutu rukutu 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 rukutarata. Gamakapata payadana makatapaga gamakapayadana makatapakatapaka yudunu makutulu rukutu nukuta. Namasamata payadulu rukutu payadulu mukutulu rukutu pilarapata pakiyudu. Amata barakata parakata paraka patarakata palarakata 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 makata palarakata mukutu rukutu rukutu nukutarata. Namasamakata palarakata payadala rapakata rukutu rukutu yudunu mukutulu rukutu yudunu kutu rukutu 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 nukutarata. Namanamana makutulu rukutu yuduru kutu yuduru rukutu nukutarata. Inakatapayata at palarakata nukutu. Namakatapakatapalakayata namakatapalarakato rapatipitipe samitipe yudunu mukuturukutu payato nakuturukutu aburahan namahan namukutu arubarahan namahan namanakaturukutu lurukutu chanakatamakata chana kamakatamanakatoro satanahana kata nama mahana makatanata.
Nitu kotisha potris picha motoris potun, takayamata tutris picha kapatrindi tutris pi, yamata koyamata tripite sotripi, nato koyamatarpe yapatara station tripti, tutri picana motoras potripi, napaka tutris wapatrampi, nutri, matri, pukuramata kotisha picha makutris picha makatutris picha makutris picha makutri picha patisha trimiwa.
Sudah meta kayanda sudah mati tanu karut chandra veto ma itando arri kama uahir kebe chandra kai ba o aru kai na sutra me asandra kau avaru kayanda sutra me avaru kain raso kebe chandra veto ma ri chandra vatua hira ka chandra veto rebe ania tu karri chandra ke muruga ya sutra matia rasindo corre bo ondi is kebe ondi ad rasandra kai maruka veto rebe on Herukama hier kedemo o veruka inde sotarmatua verukama hier kedemo ut verukama shondreka shondrbeta kai sotarkatu arve o tande ke sotramatu kande sotramatia Beruka baruka inda satrematia sandrea tua, eruka ba ania sa rovodia, rezo ba esinda kaisa, murusia rakaisa, bo urukai, me arasia rakate tu reba unde asande karrekabe un, sia arasita kaini asuka baruka ini sia rokatamot, verusia reta kurukan, Rasande ashotrematia. Urisian ragat verus candir me otande veras ushan veras.
Guyahan na naman na may sakit uloroko. Waguya naman ang darapakatapasama ko tere. Niki to uku late eteshes sena makotoluru ko to nukutanata. Gime ke toluru ko, gime te me ko toluru ko to pala. Timilara kata palara ko to nukuta. Ikipe yuto numukutu pia tamatu kulu tu tatasha seme yuduluru kutu nukutarata. Namara bara 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 kutu luru kutu makata pe iteme kito luru kutu nukuta. Adi lara kata nama kata palara kutu luru kutu adi lara kata makata palara kutu luru kutu nukutarata. Zamsama yada mana sama yada basabe yuzubi yudu numukutu luru kutu makata payada. Namuru rudu nukutu rukutu sunukutu rukutanata. Nidi pedi bi yudu rubudu yada nama tabarakata payadana makata parakuturukuti yadalara tatatara katana kiturukutu. Ni samtanna naman ang kutulurukutu yatana makutulurukutu namara barabara barape ketulurukutu palarap patapukutu yudunu makutulurukutu parakata payadana makata parakata makatanata. Gimi adama tapat sa matapi yudunu makuturukutu payadana makatapag yuru ko tabariki yudunu makuturukat takitipi yudunu makutarakat takitipi yudunu makutunata. Nimita para katulurukutu takati yadana makatanakanata. Namatamara piturukutu sa matapi yadana makati yudunu mataparikitipi yudunu makutulurukutu katanakatanata. Nimyat di yudunu maturukutu payadana makatulurukutu larapatapakatapi yudunu san naman ang katunukutanata. Natan na naman katulurukutu yata naman yata larapatapati yusuturukutu at daradana tarakutanakuturukutu atchasan naman katariki yadana katurukutu. Zamsatan naman katulurukutu zamtapas sama katapalara katunukutu adini kiturukutu usat taprate chasanu kutulurukutu chasatunu kutulurukutana chasatunu kutulurukutu achita namaha namu kutulurukutu damat saradana katanata darakatanata ratta hashasana katanata.
Sikera payero tutja samayan. Namai eruku terspesa pakuir mai mantut. Masera carriera caturo sotto respira matire ki tutu kuro. Sebagai mama pakatia trasuro cipiria maka era. Nitigra matutre specchiazzo ora che papa paieretia. Andare che tu trespi. Apagero nur. Stacca li potura pagaya yakatuta. Yene mede kuta respira kutuya. We are complete.
Yes. Thank you.
That was extraordinarily transportive. Such a blessing.
Yes, I feel completely realigned from like heart up, like opened in a different way, opened in a new way, like I'm breathing breath, like I'm breathing new breath, like something shifted between here and here, right? And it's completely opened up in a completely new and different way. My goodness. Wow.
God bless.
Wow.
This was a very different experience for me.
Wow.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Have you done this before, Zeenat?
Not in this manner. So if I'm invited, then I do bring in for a group of people, but never gone into this kind of a cyclic way. And I could actually see the energy flowing in the Celtic weave, and that was very beautiful. And when as it's been mentioned, like, you could feel that entire opening. So that brings my, that brought my attention, that no wonder they were asking me to work on the throat and the higher heart and the third
Yeah.
eye. So I feel we were just getting ready to bring in this energy, and it's beautiful. I could feel the surge coming through.
Yeah, there was a beautiful weaving, and you were talking about bringing like in a Celtic weave. It was very similar because for some reason, towards the end, my body started to do a figure eight.
Figure eight.
And then I'm like, oh, that feels extraordinary. And then all of a sudden, it went the opposite direction. Like I was, and I'm still kind of I can see it, and it's interesting. So I gotta delve into that a little deeper as to what that is. Well, that was absolutely remarkable. Thank you so much for being willing to join in on that dialogue. So, in closing here, what is one statement or thought that you really would like to leave with our audience?
So to allow yourself to breathe in and allow this energy that you bring in, the trust that you have for yourself, the being of light that you are, the remembrance, there is no discovery, there is no search. It's all but the remembrance. And when you are in that remembrance, time, space, quantum does not matter. You have taken the leap. And so it will follow. And everything around you will shift. As you have shifted your focal, your point. And you are creating a new resonance. And so that it is. And so it shall always be. Tamuto usha samuru kutarata. Sarutanaha samakatanatarata. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. How can our audience best get in touch with you if they would like more information about your offerings and so forth?
So they can connect with me on soulsearch.life, and that's my website, and there is a lot of things out there that one can look at. There are MP3s which have got 30 seconds you can listen into, and if you feel drawn to it, you can definitely buy them. And there are a lot of grids that are there, posters that are there, and whatever comes to you, you can do sessions with me. And it's an interesting site. If you just go and just enjoy the first page itself, it's very, very beautiful.
Beautiful. And Andona, do you have anything you'd like to share?
As I bring my speech back online, my ability to speak back online, this has been beautiful. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for joining us. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I feel like there's so much for me to dig into, because this has opened up so much within myself. So I'm grateful, lots of gratitude to you. Thank you so much for your presence. And I'm so happy our audience had an opportunity to have this experience with you as well. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me on this. It has just been so remarkable. I'm in gratitude and I'm humbled by this. Thank you very much. God bless you, both of you all. Thank you.
And I would extend gratitude to you as well, because there's been some type of opening or shift for myself and to investigate and explore. And I think that's what's really so beautiful about bringing this opportunity with the summit forward, not only for ourselves as a community, but also for our audience and those that are really interested in learning more about this subject and how it applies to their own lives and so forth. So with that, I thank our audience for joining us today and participating in this experience. And we will see you next time. Bye.
tutti si petri, caira batu suere matre spura, tacerenti, kutu. Perché tutte le spagliano gente, su cui amatosciano, tampacutro spiratura, ancora. Continua a suonare ieri Sirio, tampacutro spariamo, di tutto.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.